The sky was still half dark when Ryan walked out of the broken camp. The air was cold and thin smoke floated over the burned forest. The battle had ended just hours ago, but the ground still glowed in some places where alien fire had hit the trees. Ryan's boots made soft crunching sounds on the ash. He was tired, hungry, and wanted to find clean water, but something in the silence made him stop. The forest was too quiet. No birds, no wind, only the soft hum of dying machines. He looked toward the east. The first light of dawn touched the sky, painting it orange and pale gold. That was when he saw it, something small moving near a blackened tree. At first he thought it was another wounded soldier, maybe one of his own. But when he came closer, he saw the skin was pale blue, almost glowing, and her eyes were larger than human eyes, bright like crystals. It was an alien girl lying on the ground, one leg twisted in a painful angle. Her breathing was weak. Ryan stopped. His hand went to his gun automatically, but then he saw the fear in her eyes. She was no threat. She was just scared. Slowly, he knelt beside her. "Hey," he said softly, trying not to sound dangerous. "Can you hear me?" The girl blinked. Her lips moved. Her voice was soft, almost like wind. Don't stay here," she whispered. "They're watching," Ryan frowned. "Who's watching?" She shook her head weakly. Her eyes darted around the forest. "They will come back, please." "Go." Ryan looked around too, but saw nothing. Just trees, shadows, and fog. Still, something felt wrong. He felt the weight of invisible eyes on him. Maybe she was right. He pulled out his small scanner and checked her leg. It was broken badly. "I can help you," he said. "But you have to trust me." The alien girl turned her head slowly toward him. "Why?" she asked. "Humans don't help us." Ryan gave a tired smile. "Then maybe it's time one of us did." He opened his med kit and began working. The girl winced as he fixed her leg and wrapped it with a band. Her blood glowed faintly blue, but she didn't seem dangerous, just fragile. When he was done, she whispered her name. "Asha," she said. "Ryan," he replied, tightening the bandage. "You'll be okay now, Asha. You need rest." But Asha shook her head again. "No time," she said in fear. "They are here." Ryan froze. He listened. At first he heard nothing. Then a faint metallic sound came from the distance. Like the soft click of armor. His heart started to beat faster. He looked around, scanning the fog between the trees. Something moved. Small reflections, green lights blinking. 50 alien soldiers were hiding in the mist, watching silently. Their helmets shone faintly in the morning light, their weapons ready. But they didn't shoot. They just watched him, waiting. Ryan felt cold sweat on his neck. "Why aren't they attacking?" he whispered. Asha's voice trembled. "They want to see what you do. They think you will kill me. They want to prove humans are monsters." Ryan looked down at her. He thought of leaving. He could walk away, pretend he didn't see her. It would be safer. But he couldn't. Not after seeing the fear and pain in her eyes. He stood up slowly, raised his hands, and spoke loudly toward the fog. "If you're listening," he shouted, "I'm not your enemy. I'm helping her." No answer came, only silence. The green lights blinked once and vanished deeper into the mist. Ryan looked back at Asha. She was trembling. "You shouldn't have done that," she said. He knelt beside her again. "Maybe not. But I don't leave people behind." Asha's eyes softened for the first time. "You are different," she said quietly. Ryan smiled. "That's what they tell me." He lifted her gently, wrapping his coat around her small frame. "Let's get you out of here before your watchers change their mind." As he walked through the forest carrying her, dawn spread across the horizon, turning the smoke golden. The silence around them felt heavy, full of eyes he couldn't see. Somewhere in the fog, the alien soldiers were still there, moving quietly, following him. Ryan didn't know why they hadn't attacked yet. Maybe they were curious. Maybe they were testing him. But one thing was sure. Helping this alien girl had just made him part of something much bigger than himself. The morning light grew stronger as he reached the edge of the burned field. Asha was half asleep in his arms, whispering in her strange language. Ryan didn't understand the words, but they sounded like a prayer. He looked up at the sun rising above the hills and thought, "It's going to be a long day." The forest behind Ryan was silent again, but he could still feel the weight of unseen eyes following him. Every step he took felt heavier, not just because he carried Asha in his arms, but because he knew something had changed. He had crossed a line. Helping her meant defying both sides, the humans and the aliens. And in war, choices like that could get you killed. The morning light was growing brighter, but the burned valley looked lifeless. Black trees stretched like skeletons, and the ground was cracked and smoking in some places. Ryan's boots sank into the mud as he moved carefully, trying not to leave a trail. He needed to reach the old outpost about 5 miles north. If he could just make it there, he could find shelter, food, and a way to contact command. Asha stirred in his arms. Her voice was weak but clear. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. Ryan looked down at her. Her face was pale, her eyes glowing faintly under the rising sun. "Because you're hurt," he said simply. "And because no one deserves to be left to die." She shook her head. "You don't understand. My people think you're all killers. If they see you with me, they'll destroy you too." Ryan gave a half smile. "Then I guess I'll have to be careful." They reached a small stream that ran through the valley. Ryan stopped to let her drink. She cupped the water in her glowing blue hands and looked at her reflection for a moment. "I was not supposed to be here," she said softly. "I was with the scouting unit. We found something my commanders didn't want anyone to see." Ryan knelt beside her. "What did you find?" Asha hesitated. Her expression shifted between fear and confusion. A human ship, empty, crashed weeks ago. But there were no bodies, only signs. Signs of what? She looked straight at him now. Signs that humans didn't start this war. Ryan froze. For years, every soldier on Earth had been told that the Velaran Empire attacked first, that humans were the victims fighting for survival. But the way she said it made his stomach twist. "That's impossible," he said quietly. "I saw it," she whispered. "My commander ordered us to destroy the evidence. I refused. That's why they chase me. That's why they want me dead." Ryan stared at her. He wanted to ask more, but a sudden beep from his wrist scanner made him jump. It flashed red, movement detected behind them. He looked over his shoulder. The fog was thick, but he could see faint outlines shifting between the trees. "They're following us," he said. Asha's eyes widened. "We must move, now." Ryan helped her up, letting her lean on his arm. They crossed the stream and moved into the rocky hills ahead. His training kicked in. He checked the map in his visor and plotted a new path through a narrow ravine. The ground was rough and full of broken metal pieces from old battles. As they climbed, Asha suddenly stopped. Her hand gripped his sleeve. "Ryan," she said, "if you keep helping me, they will mark you a traitor. Your own people might hunt you too." Ryan looked at her, breathing heavily. "Maybe. But I'd rather be hunted for doing the right thing than live knowing I didn't." She stared at him in silence. For a moment, her glowing eyes softened, filled with something like trust. "Then I will remember your name," she said quietly. They reached a small ridge overlooking the valley. From up there, Ryan could see faint green dots moving below, the alien soldiers spreading out, searching. There were dozens of them, moving with cold precision. He pulled Asha down behind a pile of rocks and whispered, "Stay low. Don't make a sound." He activated his camouflage module. His armor shimmered slightly, blending into the background. But it wouldn't hide her. He thought quickly and pulled out a metallic blanket from his pack, one designed to mask heat signatures. He covered Asha with it and whispered, "Don't move no matter what happens." Minutes passed. The air felt heavy, filled with tension. Ryan could hear the aliens communicating through strange clicks and hums. One soldier stopped only a few meters away. Ryan held his breath, hand tight on his weapon. The alien turned its head slowly, scanning. Then, after what felt like forever, it moved away. When the last of them disappeared into the fog, Ryan exhaled and leaned back. His heart was racing. "That was close," he muttered. Asha peeked out from under the blanket. "They will not stop," she said. "They will hunt until they find me." Ryan nodded. "Then we'll make sure they never do." He helped her stand again, and they began walking north. The sun was now fully up, lighting the valley in shades of orange and gold. For a brief moment, it almost looked peaceful. But Ryan knew peace was an illusion. Somewhere out there, both humans and aliens were fighting, dying, and following orders they barely understood. He looked at Asha, limping beside him, and thought about her words. Humans didn't start the war. If she was telling the truth, then everything he believed was a lie. For the first time in years, Ryan didn't know who the real enemy was, and yet deep down, he felt something new, a reason to fight that had nothing to do with sides or commands. It was simple: protect her, find the truth, and maybe, just maybe, end this endless cycle of hate. As they disappeared into the next ridge, the alien soldiers regrouped below, watching through their scopes. Their leader spoke in a cold, metallic voice. "Do not fire yet. Let the human lead us to the outpost. Then we take them both." The hunt had just begun. The morning sun had climbed higher, but the light brought no comfort. It only revealed how broken the world around them had become. Trees burned to ash, metal wrecks half buried in dirt, and the smell of smoke mixed with iron. Ryan and Asha moved quietly through the valley, following a narrow path between the rocks. Ryan's visor flickered with signals. Enemy scanners were getting closer. They had been walking for an hour, maybe less, when Ryan stopped. The air had changed. He felt it like a vibration under his skin. "They've found our trail," he said softly. Asha looked behind them, her glowing eyes narrowing. "They move fast. They never give up." Ryan touched his wrist pad and opened his scanner map. Dozens of red dots appeared behind them, moving like a wave. "They're closing in," he said. "About 50 of them. Maybe more." Asha's voice trembled. "Then we must run." Ryan nodded. "Stay close." They started moving again, faster this time. Their boots kicked up dust as they ran between the rocks and dead trees. Ryan's armor was heavy, but he kept going, guiding Asha with his hand. Her injured leg slowed her down, but she refused to stop. The sound of alien drones began to echo through the valley, a deep, metallic hum that sent chills down Ryan's spine. Asha gasped. "They released Seekers," Ryan cursed under his breath. Seekers were flying drones designed to track body heat. He looked around desperately. The valley opened into a wide plain. No cover, no place to hide. "Come on!" he shouted. They sprinted toward a broken bridge that stretched over a dry riverbed. As they ran, the first Seeker dropped from the sky. It hovered above them, scanning. Ryan pulled his pistol and fired. The shot hit the drone's core and it exploded in a burst of sparks, but two more appeared right after. Asha raised her wrist device and pressed a sequence of glowing symbols. A blue pulse flashed from her hand and one of the drones fell to the ground, twitching. The other zipped away, sending a signal before disappearing behind the ridge. "They know where we are now," Asha said. Ryan gritted his teeth. "Then let's make it hard for them to follow." They crossed the bridge and slid down into the riverbed. The dry soil cracked beneath their feet. Ryan opened his pack and pulled out a small disc-shaped device. He threw it behind them. It blinked red, then green. "What is that?" Asha asked. "EMP mine," Ryan replied. "Electromagnetic pulse. When they get close, it'll fry their sensors." They ran deeper into the ravine, turning sharply between narrow rock walls. The sound of boots and engines echoed from behind, closer now. Ryan could hear the aliens shouting commands in their harsh, metallic language. Suddenly, a plasma bolt hit the rock beside his head, sending shards flying. Another shot grazed his shoulder armor, burning through the metal. Ryan grabbed Asha's hand and pulled her into a small cave opening. "Stay low," he whispered. Outside, heavy footsteps approached. He held his breath, finger on the trigger. Through the thin crack of the cave entrance, he saw two alien soldiers pass by, their armor glowing faintly in the dust. One of them stopped, scanning the area. The scanner beeped once. Ryan's pulse quickened. If it beeped again, they were dead. Then from behind, a loud blast shook the ground. The EMP mine had gone off. The scanner flickered and died. Confused, the soldiers shouted and moved away, their lights fading into the distance. Asha looked at Ryan wide-eyed. "That sound? What did you do?" He smiled faintly. "Bought us a few minutes." They crawled out of the cave and continued through the ravine. The ground began to rise, leading to a high slope. From there, Ryan could see the horizon, a stretch of red sand and scattered metal debris. "We're almost there," he said. "The outpost is beyond that ridge." Asha nodded weakly. "I can make it." But before they could move, Ryan's visor flashed red again. Multiple heat signatures, front, left, right. They were surrounded. He looked at Asha. "They're faster than I thought." From the mist ahead, alien soldiers emerged, tall, armored, with glowing helmets. Their weapons hummed as they aimed. Ryan raised his gun but knew he was outnumbered. He counted quickly, 10 visible, maybe 20 hidden. The leader stepped forward. Its voice was deep, distorted through its mask. "Human, leave the girl. You may go free." Ryan's jaw tightened. "Not going to happen." The leader tilted its head. Then you die with her. Asha tried to speak, but Ryan cut her off. Stay behind me. He activated his pulse shield, a faint blue barrier forming in front of them. The aliens opened fire. Plasma bolts slammed into the shield, shaking it violently. Sparks flew everywhere. Ryan! Asha shouted. The shield won't hold. I know, he shouted back. He tapped his wrist pad and activated his last EMP charge. Hold on. The device detonated with a loud bang. A wave of blue energy swept across the valley, short-circuiting everything. Guns, drones, even helmets. The alien stumbled, blinded by static. Ryan grabbed Asha's arm. Now! They ran up the hill through the smoke. The ground shook with explosions. Behind them, the aliens tried to recover, shouting orders. A few fired blindly, missing by inches. Ryan didn't stop until they reached the top of the ridge. From there, they could see the old human outpost. A cluster of metal domes half buried in sand. It looked broken, but it was their only hope. Asha fell to her knees, breathing hard. They won't stop, she said. Ryan looked back at the smoke rising behind them. Then neither will we. Far below, the alien leader watched them escape and raised his communicator. Prepare the air units, he said coldly. They're heading to the human base. We'll end this at dawn. The chase was far from over. It had only just begun. The sun was sinking behind the broken hills when Ryan and Asha finally reached the edge of the outpost. What once had been a proud human command base was now nothing more than a graveyard of steel. The domes were cracked, the towers bent like old bones. Dust hung in the air, and the faint hum of dying machines echoed from the tunnels below. Ryan stopped near a metal hatch half buried in sand. He brushed it clean with his hand, then pressed his wrist pad against it. The scanner blinked weakly. Still functional, he muttered. A small click sounded and the hatch creaked open. Asha hesitated. Is it safe? Safer than outside, Ryan said. Come on. He helped her down the ladder into the darkness. The tunnel smelled of rust and old smoke. Faded lights flickered on the walls as they moved deeper underground. It was quiet, too quiet. Every sound they made seemed to echo forever. They reached a wide chamber that once served as a storage bay. Broken crates, scattered tools, and old hologram panels filled the space. Ryan found a working light and switched it on. Asha blinked as the soft yellow glow filled the room. You can rest here, Ryan said, setting down his pack. I'll check the perimeter. Asha nodded, sitting on a metal crate. Her injured leg was stiff and she winced when she moved. Ryan, she said softly, why do humans build places like this? Underground? He shrugged. To hide. To survive. We thought we were the weaker ones. She looked down. Maybe you still are, she said quietly, but not in the way you think. Ryan frowned. What do you mean? Asha didn't answer right away. She looked around the room, as if making sure they were alone. Then she reached into her coat and pulled out a small round device, a crystal sphere that glowed faintly blue. Ryan watched her carefully. What is that? It's a recorder, she said. I took it from my commander before I escaped. She placed it on the floor. The sphere pulsed once and a hologram projected into the air. The image flickered, showing a battlefield, but not like the ones Ryan knew. The soldiers were alien, but their enemies weren't humans. They were fighting each other. Velaran soldiers killing Velaran soldiers. Ryan's eyes widened. What is this? The truth, Asha said. The war didn't start with humans. It started long before your people even entered our skies. My leaders made a choice. They needed a new enemy, someone to unite the Empire. So they chose you. Ryan felt his stomach twist. You're saying your people attacked first on purpose? Yes, she said, her voice shaking. They told us humans were invaders, monsters who wanted to destroy our worlds. But that was a lie. It was all a lie. Ryan stepped back, his mind racing. All his life he had believed the opposite. Every battle, every order, every friend he'd lost, it had all been built on this single idea, that they were defending Earth. I don't believe this, he said quietly. Asha looked up at him. You've seen how they hunt. Do they look like people who want peace? Ryan clenched his fists. Why show me this? Why me? Because you helped me, Asha said. And because your people will never listen to me. But they might listen to one of their own. Ryan turned away, staring at the flickering hologram. The images replayed, the betrayal, the executions, the secret orders. Everything screamed of corruption and control. He felt anger rise inside him, mixed with confusion. If this is true, then both our sides are fighting for nothing, he said bitterly. Asha nodded slowly. That's why I ran. I thought if I could find someone human, I could show them. But now it's too late. They will erase me, and soon you too. He looked at her and saw the fear in her eyes. For the first time, he understood that she wasn't just another alien. She was a witness to the truth. And that truth was dangerous. Suddenly, a faint sound echoed through the tunnels, metal scraping against stone. Ryan's instincts kicked in. He grabbed his weapon and motioned for Asha to stay quiet. The scraping grew louder, followed by muffled voices. Alien voices, they found us, Asha whispered. Ryan moved to the door and shut off the lights. The room sank into darkness. Only the faint glow from Asha's crystal remained, pulsing softly. He turned to her. Hide the recorder, he whispered. Now. She pressed the sphere against her wrist device. It sank into the skin, vanishing beneath her glowing veins. Ryan crouched near the entrance, his finger on the trigger. Shadows moved in the tunnel outside. The sound of footsteps echoed closer. Slow, careful, hunting. Asha leaned closer. There's another exit deeper inside, she whispered. A ventilation tunnel. Small, but it leads to the cliffs, Ryan nodded. Go, he said. I'll hold them. She shook her head. No, you can't fight them all. Didn't plan to, he said. Just need to buy time. He waited until she started crawling toward the tunnel, then turned his focus back to the door. The first alien shape appeared in the dark, a helmet with glowing eyes. Ryan didn't hesitate, he fired. The plasma bolt lit up the room, striking the intruder square in the chest. More voices shouted outside, Go! He yelled over the noise. Asha crawled through the narrow vent, her heart pounding. Behind her, flashes of blue light filled the chamber. She looked back once and saw Ryan standing firm, surrounded by shadows, his weapon blazing. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, Don't die, human. The tunnel shook as an explosion ripped through the chamber. Asha crawled faster, emerging into the cold night air. She looked back at the smoke rising from the outpost and clenched her fists. She had lost everything, but not the truth. And now she had to protect it no matter what it cost. The night was cold and silent when Asha finally stopped running. The wind blew across the rocky cliffs, carrying dust and the faint smell of smoke from the destroyed outpost below. Her chest burned and her injured leg throbbed with pain, but she didn't dare rest for long. Every shadow looked like a soldier. Every gust of wind sounded like footsteps. She turned back toward the valley. From up here, she could see the faint glow of fire where the outpost had been. The smoke rose like a dark ribbon into the sky. Her throat tightened. Ryan, she whispered, her voice breaking. For a moment, she thought he was gone. She wanted to believe he had survived, but the explosion had been massive. No one could live through that. Still, she couldn't let herself stop. The truth was too important. She touched her wrist, feeling the small crystal pulse under her skin. The recorder was still safe. Asha limped along the ridge until she found a shallow cave. She crawled inside and sat against the cold wall, pulling her cloak around herself. Her mind replayed the last few hours. The hologram, the soldiers, Ryan's voice shouting for her to run. She had met many humans during this war, but none like him. He had risked everything for her even when he had no reason to. Her translator flickered on and static filled her ears. Someone was nearby. She froze. A soft crackle came again, followed by a weak voice through her comm. Asha, do you copy? Her heart leapt. It was Ryan. She quickly adjusted her device. Ryan, you're alive? Barely, he said, his voice rough and full of static. I made it out through a maintenance tunnel. Lost most of my gear, but I'm breathing. Tears filled her eyes. I thought you were dead. Not yet, he said with a faint laugh. Where are you? Northridge, she said. There's a cave near the cliffs. I'm coming to you, he said. Stay hidden. They're sweeping the area with drones. The connection cut out. Asha leaned her head back and exhaled shakily. He was alive. That one thought gave her strength again. Hours passed before she saw movement in the darkness below. A lone figure climbed the rocky slope, limping, covered in dust and ash. When he reached the cave entrance, Asha ran to him, helping him inside. His armor was scorched, his face smeared with dirt, but his eyes were still sharp. You look terrible, she said softly. Ryan smiled weakly. You should see the other guys. He sat down, groaning, and looked around the cave. We can't stay long, he said. They'll find this place by morning. Asha nodded. Then we have to send the truth now. The recorder, it's still working. Ryan frowned. Send it where? Every human channel is monitored, and your people would destroy the message before it even reached their ships. She hesitated. There's one place they can't touch, in the beacon field. Ryan blinked. The beacon field? You mean the old satellite array? Yes, she said. It's still active. If I can connect the recorder to the signal core, the truth will go to every network. Human and Velaran alike. They'll all see what really started this war. Ryan rubbed his face. That's suicide. The beacon field is an open desert. You'll be visible for miles. She met his eyes. Then I won't go alone. Ryan stared at her for a long moment, then sighed. You really don't give people much choice, do you? Asha smiled faintly. You chose long ago, human. They left the cave before dawn. The stars faded as the first light touched the horizon. The desert stretched endlessly before them, silver under the rising sun. Ryan adjusted his broken armor and handed Asha a small device. Signal jammer, he said. It'll hide us from their scanners, for a while. They walked for hours across the sand, the wind howling around them. Ryan limped, his shoulder burned, but he kept moving. Asha tried not to show it, but she was growing weaker too. The wound in her leg had reopened, glowing faintly beneath the bandages. Almost there, Ryan said finally, pointing ahead. In the distance, a cluster of metal towers rose from the ground like ancient bones. The beacon field. The tallest tower still blinked with a faint blue light. Asha's eyes lit up. It's still alive. But before they could reach it, Ryan stopped. He scanned the horizon and cursed. Damn it! They're already here. Dozens of alien dropships were descending, dark shapes against the bright sky. Dust swirled beneath them as they landed in a circle around the towers. Soldiers poured out, forming lines, weapons ready. Ryan grabbed Asha's arm. We go through the east side, Bo. There's a gap between those rocks. Stay low. They crawled along the sand, using the dunes as cover. Plasma fire flashed in the distance as the aliens tested their weapons. Ryan's heart pounded. They're setting up jammers, he whispered. We need to reach the tower before they block transmissions. Asha nodded. Then we run. They sprinted across the open ground, explosions shaking the air around them. The heat burned their faces, but they didn't stop. Ryan reached the tower first, firing at the nearest soldiers to draw attention. Climb! He shouted. Asha grabbed the ladder, pulling herself up as fast as she could. The soldiers turned, firing bolts of blue energy. Ryan took cover behind a metal crate, returning fire. His weapon overheated, but he didn't care. He just needed to buy her a few more seconds. At the top of the tower, Asha reached the core. Her hands shook as she placed the recorder into the glowing panel. Come on, she whispered. Work. The core flickered, then pulsed with light. A deep hum filled the air. The signal had begun to transmit. Below, Ryan heard the sound and smiled through the smoke. You did it, he whispered. A massive explosion hit near the tower, throwing him to the ground. Dust and fire filled the air. The soldiers shouted in confusion as the signal beam shot into the sky. A pillar of light cutting through the dawn. Every ship, every satellite, every command center across both worlds would see it. The truth was out. But as Ryan tried to stand, he saw something terrifying. The alien leader's dropship descending straight toward the tower. Asha looked down at him, fear in her glowing eyes. Ryan, he's here. Ryan raised his weapon again, his voice steady. Then it's time to finish this. The sky burned with light. The beacon tower glowed like a blade of fire cutting through the dawn, its signal stretching into space. Around it, chaos ruled. Alien dropships circled above, soldiers shouting in their metallic voices, plasma bolts slicing through the air. Ryan coughed as smoke filled his lungs. The sand around him was scorched black and his armor was cracked. He could still see Asha at the top of the tower, her small figure surrounded by blue light. She had done it, the truth was out. But now the enemy wanted revenge. The alien leader's ship landed with a thunderous crash. Dust exploded outward and a tall figure stepped down the ramp. His armor was black and gold, carved with strange symbols. His glowing eyes locked on Asha above. Bring her down alive, he ordered in a cold, deep voice. Kill the human. Ryan gritted his teeth. Not today. He fired, hitting one of the soldiers in the chest. The blast knocked it back, but 5 more moved in. Ryan ducked behind a metal barrier, his pulse pounding. Plasma bolts hit the ground around him, throwing sand and heat into the air. His weapons charge was dropping fast. Asha climbed down halfway, shouting, "Ryan, get inside the tower! There's a service tunnel beneath." Ryan ran for the base of the tower as more shots followed him. He kicked open a hatch and dropped inside, landing hard on metal flooring. The tunnel was dark and narrow, filled with pipes and wires. Asha jumped in right after him, sealing the hatch above them. For a moment, they just breathed. The sound of battle muffled above. Ryan turned to her. "That signal better have reached someone." "It did," Asha said, catching her breath. "Now everyone knows. But it won't matter if we die here." Ryan nodded. "Then we won't." He checked his wrist pad. The scanner showed multiple life signs closing in. "They're coming underground," he said. Asha looked around, panic flashing in her eyes. "We can't fight them all." Ryan spotted a power terminal in the corner. "We won't. We'll make them think we can." He began working quickly, connecting cables and pulling out his last 2 EMP charges. "When they enter, this place will light up like a thunderstorm," he said with a grin. Asha tilted her head, confused but smiling slightly. "You humans really love explosions." "It's kind of our thing," he said. The ground shook. Alien troops were cutting through the walls above. Sparks rained down as metal melted under plasma heat. Ryan finished setting the traps, then turned to Asha. "When it starts, run for that vent. It leads to the cliffs. What about you?" "I'll keep them busy." She shook her head fiercely. "No, we go together." Ryan looked at her and smiled sadly. "You still don't understand humans. We're stubborn." Before she could reply, the wall exploded inward. Soldiers poured through the opening, their glowing eyes searching the dark. Ryan fired first, his shots lighting up the tunnel. The aliens answered with a storm of plasma fire. "Go," he shouted. Asha ran for the vent as Ryan's EMP mines exploded, filling the tunnel with blinding blue light. Sparks and static danced through the air, frying the soldiers' systems. Several fell, their armor short-circuiting. Ryan kept firing, ducking behind pipes and metal crates. His shoulder burned, his arm numb, but he refused to stop. "Come on," he yelled, defiant. The alien leader's voice echoed through the comms. "You fight for a lie, human. She will die and your world will follow." Ryan grinned through blood-stained lips. "Then at least I'll die telling the truth." A sudden blast threw him backward, slamming him against the wall. His vision blurred. He saw Asha crawling through the vent, looking back at him. "Ryan!" she screamed. He tried to move but couldn't. The alien leader entered the tunnel, towering over him. "Brave," the leader said. "But foolish." Ryan coughed, blood on his chin. "Maybe, but bravery spreads faster than fear." The leader raised his weapon to strike, but before he could, a flash of blue light filled the tunnel. Asha had turned around. She held the recorder's power core in her hands, glowing brighter every second. "Asha, no," Ryan shouted. She looked at him, her voice steady and calm. "You said humans are stubborn. So are we." She slammed the core into the ground. The explosion was silent for a moment. Then a massive shockwave erupted, tearing through the tunnel. The walls collapsed, burying everything in a storm of light and dust. When Ryan opened his eyes, everything was still. The air was thick with smoke. His ears rang. He pushed himself up with trembling hands. The alien leader was gone, buried beneath rubble. "Asha!" he shouted, his voice cracking. He crawled over broken metal until he found her. She was half buried under debris, weak but alive. The glow in her chest flickered faintly. "You're insane," he said softly, lifting her free. She smiled weakly. "You taught me that." Ryan carried her toward the far end of the tunnel, where sunlight broke through a crack in the wall. They climbed out into the open desert. The tower behind them was in ruins, but its light still flickered faintly, sending the last bits of data into the sky. Asha looked up at the horizon, her breathing shallow. "It's done," she whispered. "They'll know the truth now." Ryan nodded, looking at the smoke and wreckage.
"Yeah," he said quietly.
"But they'll need to decide what to do with it." He looked down at her. "Rest now. You've done enough." She closed her eyes, her faint glow fading with the morning light. Ryan sat beside her, the rising sun painting the desert gold. The battle was over. But the war for truth had only just begun. The desert was quiet again. The battle that had shaken the valley was now only a memory, burned metal, broken ships, and trails of smoke rising into the pale morning sky. Ryan sat on the sand beside the ruins of the beacon tower, his armor cracked and covered in dust. The wind blew gently, carrying the faint smell of ozone and fire. Beside him, Asha lay still, her faint blue glow fading with each passing minute. Her breathing was shallow but steady. The explosion underground had nearly killed them both, but somehow they had survived. Ryan had carried her out through the cracks in the collapsed tunnel, his body aching, his mind numb. Now, under the soft light of dawn, everything felt still, like the war itself had paused to take a breath. Ryan looked at the horizon. The rising sun painted the sky in gold and crimson. For the first time in years, it didn't look like a world of war. It looked like a world waiting to start again. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small metal shard from the beacon's core. It still pulsed faintly, proof that the transmission had gone through. "You did it," he whispered, glancing at Asha. "The truth is out there now." Asha opened her eyes slowly. Her voice was weak, barely a whisper. "Did they see it?" Ryan nodded. "Every world, every ship, every leader. They all saw what your people did and what mine didn't." A small, tired smile touched her lips. "Then it wasn't for nothing." He helped her sit up gently. The sand shifted beneath them, glowing faintly in the early light. Around them, the wreckage of alien dropships lay scattered, silent. No soldiers came, no drones, just the two of them and the new silence between worlds. Ryan sighed. "They'll be angry. Both sides. The truth doesn't make friends." "Maybe," Asha said softly, "but it can start change." He looked at her, seeing how fragile she seemed now. Thin, pale, the glow in her skin dimming. "You need help. There's a human base 2 days from here. If I can reach it?" Asha shook her head. "No, you can't take me there. They'll never trust me. They'll see me as a weapon." Ryan clenched his fists. "Then I'll make them see you as a person." She smiled sadly. "That's not how your world works." He wanted to argue, but the look in her eyes stopped him. She had seen too much, lost too much. She wasn't being cruel, just honest. They sat in silence for a long time. The wind blew over the sand, erasing footprints, covering the scars of battle. Above them, the sky was turning bright. Ryan broke the silence. "You know," he said quietly, "when I first saw you in that forest, I thought you were just another enemy. But you weren't. You were the only one brave enough to ask why we were fighting." Asha looked at him. "And you were the only one kind enough to answer?" Ryan smiled faintly. "Guess we both broke a few rules." She gave a soft laugh, the sound barely audible. "Yes, maybe that's what peace needs, rule breakers." Her breathing grew weaker. Ryan felt panic rise in his chest. "Hey, stay with me," he said, holding her hand. Her skin was cold, her glow flickering like a dying flame. "I'm tired," she whispered. "My body won't heal here. The air, the light, it's not for me." He gripped her hand tighter. "Then I'll find a way." "There's always a way." She shook her head gently. "No, Ryan, you already found it. You showed me that kindness can exist even in war. That's enough." Ryan felt tears burning his eyes. "You're not dying here, Asha. Not after everything." She smiled faintly, her gaze lifting toward the sunrise. "Look," she whispered. "Your dawn. It's beautiful." He followed her gaze. The sun had fully risen now, bathing the desert in gold. For a moment, the world didn't look broken. It looked alive. When he looked back at her, her eyes were closed, her breathing silent. Her glow faded completely, leaving only soft blue patterns on her skin, like stars trapped beneath the surface. Ryan sat beside her for a long time, saying nothing. The wind whispered through the ruins, carrying her last words into the open sky. Hours later, a shadow passed overhead, a human aircraft. It circled once, scanning the area. Ryan stood and waved weakly. The aircraft descended, engines roaring, kicking up sand around him. Soldiers rushed out, shouting his name.
"Captain Ryan Hale!"
"We thought you were dead." He didn't answer. He just pointed to the body beside him. "She's not the enemy," he said quietly. "She's the reason you're still alive." The soldiers looked confused, whispering to each other. One of them touched his communicator. "Command says we received a signal earlier. A message from the beacon network. They're calling a ceasefire." Ryan looked up at the bright sky. "Then she did it," he said softly. "She actually did it." They carried him and Asha's body onto the aircraft. As it lifted off, Ryan looked down at the desert one last time. The sun's reflection glimmered on the sand, and for a brief second he swore he saw a faint blue light, like Asha's glow, shining from the ruins below. He smiled to himself. Rest easy, Asha, he whispered. They'll remember you. The ship disappeared into the sky, leaving the battlefield behind. The war had ended not with victory, but with truth. And as the dawn spread across both worlds, human and Velaran, the first light of peace began to rise.